I want to express an official greeting to the AIPH organization, to government officials, and to the other country teams and supporters here representing their Expo efforts, and all esteemed guests. We thank you for your warm hospitality and your ongoing support of the Expo 2031 Minnesota application. And I am Wendy Beagley, the CEO of the Minnesota 2031 USA Expo. This is my colleague and our chief architect, David Blair. So the team is now sharing our mementos, and let's give you a surprise. Our table in the back, we want to express a special greeting to she says she can call her Kasia, but she is our special guest from the U.S. Embassy here in Poland today. And she's joined us to officially meet AIPH. Could you stand up, Kasia? Just so we can say hello. Meet our colleagues convened here in Warsaw at the, and to introduce yourself to the International Association of Horticulture Producers, the AIPH. In exploring this to initiate, to initiate the process of how world expositions are developed in America by public-private partnerships. During our week of exploration last year, we learned that this is a vibrant global community of horticulture industry leaders who care about the same things we do, and what has become our Expo 2031 theme, human nature, where humanity and horticulture meet. Today, we're sharing an update with you on our substantial progress to that goal and our commitment to bring Expo 2031 Minnesota USA to fruition. We are methodically advancing our application through the official government process required in the U.S. to plan, build, and design a world-class, truly great A1 World Horticultural Exposition. Now, David and I are here to share with you all our exciting progress and our enthusiasm for the next steps in our ongoing effort to bring the first A1 World Horticultural Exposition to the United States of America. A key deliverable in accomplishing this goal is gaining support of our federal government. In the United States, all world expositions are developed through a public-private partnership structure that is initiated through a statutory U.S. commerce application process. That translates in every language to required by law. It's a 6-month process which we submitted on April 30th of this year. As you can see here, we've already convened and have the support of the U.S. State Department, the U.S. Commerce Department, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Botanic Gardens, who also collaborate with, as you can see, the American Public Gardens Association and the U.S. National Arboretum. We appreciate their support and will continue to complete our official process near term to continue our strong momentum for Expo 2031.
They are done.
Additionally, in the United States, our federal legislators, senators, and congresspeople play an important role in representing their support of their constituents and the state of Minnesota. As you can see here, both Senators Klobuchar and Smith and Congresswoman Craig, Congressman Vincent, and Congresswoman McCollum have sent letters of support on Expo 2031's behalf to President Biden, Secretary Raimondo, Secretary Blinken, and Secretary Vilsack, representing the key federal departments required to achieve our federal support of Expo 2031 Minnesota USA. And of course, an A1 World Horticultural Exposition requires expansive support from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Here you see the state of Minnesota's Commissioner of Agriculture, Tom Peterson, his Expo 2031 commitment, and the strong support stating in his words, and I'll say them without a voice. We're excited by the possibility of Minnesota and the U.S. hosting a World Horticultural Exposition for the first time, and the Minnesota Department of Agriculture will provide assistance however possible. Here's the full range of state departments we'll be collaborating with to bring a public-private partnership-led Expo 2031 to life in Minnesota, USA. As you can see, it will include the Governor's Office, the Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, the U.S. Commercial Service, which is the extension of the U.S. Commerce Department at the state level, the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, the Department of Human Rights, Office of Equity and Inclusion for Minnesota Businesses. And that's not all, but those are the key ones, and you can imagine that this takes a big effort from our team and a lot of collaboration. So let's get to the exciting stuff. We got to get to, because David's got the exciting components. Our Expo site is planned in Dakota County, and for those of you who were at our site visit, you met Commissioner Joe Atkins, and so today he is with us and is representing the location of our site, which is in Dakota County, which is part of our Greater Twin Cities metropolitan region. Allow me to introduce Chair Atkins and his message.
AIPH. On behalf of myself, Joe Atkins, I chair the Dakota County Board, and all of my colleagues on the county board. AIPH means a good day in Dakota language, or welcome. And we look forward to welcoming you here to Dakota County in 2031. Dakota County is the only county in America that has been named the best county for public safety, for transportation, for public health in the last 6 years, all in the last 6 years. And by the time you get here, we will be the only county, or at least the first county in America, that will actually generate as much energy, electricity from renewable sources as all of our buildings and facilities use. We're an idyllic location for you to hold your expo. Over half of our land is still in farms, over 300 square miles. We're also close to everything. The Mall of America is 20 minutes away. The Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport is 20 minutes away. The state capitol is behind me. If you go down the river along our Mississippi River Greenway, you can take a bicycle or walk all the way to the state capitol if you choose to. We're in the center of it all, and we look forward to welcoming all of you here in 2031.
And now David.
Thank you very much for inviting us back. As Wendy said, it's been a year of coming to AIPH annual conferences, but also putting together this plan. And for today, I'm going to provide a framework around an understanding of our Expo plan. Not all the details of everything that's going on, but trying to put all the pieces together to host a world-class, truly great international horticulture expo. Takes some time, and we have many of the pieces in place. But some of these pieces just take a little bit longer, as Wendy said. Some of those require political and important support, but we have made adjustments to our application as well, based on input from the AIPH, based on input from our county partners. And today I'd like to just focus in on 3 different aspects. One is on the site design itself. Secondly is on the international participation, the country participation. And then lastly, on our legacy and the educational components of the Expo plan. We have a 6-month, 3 seasons. So spring, it'll be a little chilly. Summer, which is glorious and really beautiful. As the site visit folks witness to really nice weather. And in the fall, we have glorious colors that emerge from our maples and our oaks. That'll be part of our Expo experience. Our site is adjacent to the Mississippi River, and 800 miles from the headwaters, which originates in Minnesota, is where our site is. So our site is along the banks of this long storied river, one of the great river systems in the world, and we're taking advantage of that connection to the Mississippi River. And one little side note, since the site visit occurred in July, I must say that our governor of our state of Minnesota, great state of Minnesota, now has become and elevated to the position of the vice presidential nominee. And our governor has been a strong supporter of this, as well as the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan. And so Minnie and I have been one-on-one on this project. And so it's good to see that kind of strong promotion and even national attention that we might get from this expo. A couple things about the sort of size and scale. We rely on sponsors. Wendy mentioned the notion of public-private partnerships. So sponsorship is a really important aspect of what we have here. And having sponsors to participate financially and also to demonstrate their commitment and on-site presence to offer up some unique perspectives to the horticulture industry is an important element of our plans. Secondly, we are adjacent to a very large regional park, over 500 hectare regional park that exists currently. It's a park that's reintroduced bison into the site. It's a park on the side of the Mississippi River with access for canoes and boats, and a trail system, a bike trail system. As you saw in the video, the Dakota County Commissioner Joe Atkins had the Mississippi River over his shoulder, and also you can see part of the site from that camera angle. And really importantly, we embed sustainability into all aspects of our plan. That includes the design, the construction, and the operations. So we focused in on how to become the first net zero energy and reduced carbon emissions planned for an Expo. And that's a really important part, a key part. And we're using a lot of our land area actually to develop solar gardens that can generate as much or more electricity that we need for the site operations. And then lastly, working with the Department of State, with our other partners, we've crafted a plan, a detailed plan of inviting really key countries for the international participation. We see this as a really important step about our outreach, our connection, our close economic and cultural connections to many countries that are represented here, but also we've identified a roadmap of the timing, the kind of resources that might be available for each of these countries to participate becomes a very important part of it. Just to illustrate this a little bit, we've identified about 36 different countries as the initial targets for their participation. We know that international participation is really the core, the showcase, the reason for getting together to have international exchange of ideas and have those countries participate in a powerful way. But we might have between 14 and 25 additional interests. We think it might be even more. It's the first International Horticulture Expo in the United States. And so our promotion efforts will be global. We look at a lot of our visitors to be regional, but we know that this will be a lot of interest for participation in the United States. One of the resources that we've added to our team, even since our site visit, are experts in our own community, folks that have had business experience and working for large international corporations. In our home state, we have 3M. Many of you might know 3M is the company. It stands for Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. Started in Minnesota, headquartered in Minnesota, and as a result, because of their international connections, and because of introducing John Conor, who has experience from his 3M background as helping guide our international country participation. And with this, I'm going to introduce John to tell his story.
Hello, I am John Pornor, the CEO of Government Analytica and a founding partner of Expo 2031. I am proud to support our incredible team by focusing on international relations, essential to the success of this global event. I will work closely with our leadership team and our Expo partners, helping to build and strengthen the international connections that are required for a successful event. My background is in international government affairs. I have led the international government affairs team of one of Minnesota's iconic companies in nearly 40 countries. My goal is to use my cultural and political fluency to ensure that our messaging is clear, it is effective, and it resonates across diverse cultures, and that we serve our global connections well. I am delighted to support our collective mission to inspire, to innovate, and to connect the world through Expo 2031. Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to share a revision from our presentation in Doha about our site. We continue to revise our site plan, our development, and this diagram shows our commitment to looking at strategies of introducing an experience with water, which is a really important element in Minnesota, the connection down to the Mississippi River. On the very top portion of this plan is where the regional county park, the 500-hectare park, lies, and beyond that is the shores of the Mississippi River. We know that the showcase for this is really around the international pavilions and the international gardens, as we call them. And in addition to these kinds of features, we've also had extensive conversations with other folks. That includes Polling Garden TV, HGTV, for potentially doing on-site production of garden shows during the Expo itself, which would be a really unique component and really expand the kind of presence that an Expo could offer. Another component is that we had the opportunity in Doha to meet up with Cirque du Soleil. And then from that, we've developed a plan of potentially having a specialized Cirque du Soleil Expo, Horticulture Expo program for all 6 months of our show. So we've adopted those kinds of elements and included those in our plans. Without going into all the details, because it's lunchtime and we all like to get a little bit of food here, here are just some of the highlights. And some of those things include the notion of a gondola ride that could be a permanent feature long term. The notion of biodomes that provide an indoor experience as well and can be converted for the legacy, which I'll show in just a second here. The idea of having an observatory on a site, because we have 2 unique times during our Expo time. One will be the summer solstice on June 21st, and the other one will be the autumnal equinox. And we think it would be a really cool thing, a really nice thing to celebrate those 2 milestones about our journey around the sun by having a small observatory and recognize that kind of condition. For us, this change of the seasons, the change in sunlight and exposure has everything to do with the power of plants on our site. And so recognizing that through as many ways as we can is a really important pledge. With that, just want to identify, we also have an extensive infrastructure. In the previous plan, I'll just go back for a second. You go, just go forwarding us. Bring it to the active bill, please. On the previous plan here, over on your left is our solar garden, about 18 to 19 hectares of solar panels to help generate power for this site. And with that, we see that as just not a single purpose, but we know that there's some research underway in the US about developing microclimate conditions and having plant conditions underneath solar panels to help them perform better by having the plants produce lower temperatures so the solar panels themselves can really produce some work. We also know it'll be an opportunity to actually do some parking on site for the workers who will be working there. And we know that we have to protect the safety and well-being of everyone who's on the site, and we have some storm shelters underneath these solar panels. But those become really important elements of advancing a net zero energy, highly sustainable Expo. Next, I'd like to talk just a little bit about legacy. How do we convert these aspects that we've been talking about into something? How can we use some of those fixed attributes, fixed facilities, that investment into long term? And we see this developing in 3 really specific ways. One is really to embrace the educational component and have we have 10 higher education institutions in the state of Minnesota alone that have horticulture programs, but have classrooms, nursery plots, and laboratories on site for these programs, as well as embrace practical applications through horticulture industries, for manufacturers, for suppliers, and really do some real on-site education after the Expo is done. So we carved out some of the area that was already set for the solar panels, and we repurposed the solar panels for that aspect. The second piece is we received a lot of feedback from the community about really advancing the notion of the amphitheater and the festival grounds, and how do we take that very special moment of the international pavilions and turn those into festival grounds. So we kind of cordoned off that area of the site so that we could have people come and go to a festival area on site, and we would rebuild on site the new hotel that would be part of that presence. And then lastly, we've identified an area that more is about research and labs. So we can convert the biodomes into part of that research experience, like in Pleasant Research Center, but we'd use that aspect of research, different than education, about advancing it. Could be some with labs, could be maybe just advancing policy positions on horticulture on the site. So the three areas that I just mentioned about education, about festival grounds, and about research is all there, but it's also underpinned with some of the infrastructure. And we will allow some road structures to go through the site to reach the park. And that's an important part, converting the site into something that's used every day, 365 days a year, for access to the park. People want to see the bison. They want to get down to the river. And so we want to make that very accessible. And so those kinds of infrastructure elements would remain or be converted in a thoughtful way. And then lastly, on our legacy aspect, we recognize the fact that children who are in our 6th grade today will be graduating to going into college or going into their careers by the time 2031 occurs. We understand that that level of excitement in our community about looking at where the school children are so that they have had an experience themselves living in our community by being a host to this expo is a super important part, a super identified goal for us as an expo team in advancing this. So education has become a really cornerstone, not only in its legacy on site, but we've also identified a few things here about how we incorporate curriculum development, how we look at different ways of tapping into over 425,000 college students who exist in the state of Minnesota from almost every country on the planet who are residents in our college system to be able to participate during that time, to be able to be exposed and have that kind of experience for everything we do for the expo itself. And one of the things that we feel very privileged about in our team is that we have strong connections to the University of Minnesota. The University of Minnesota itself has had over 28 Nobel Prize laureates who have studied at the University of Minnesota. That's a lot of history, a lot of heritage. Some, like Bob Dylan, may or may not participate into our expo plan, but others have really formed the formation of horticulture today, and we want to recognize that fact. But we have some really talent in that, and with that we have some connections back. So we'll have Wendy kind of finish us off before lunch.
Thank you, David. So as David just shared, education is a key component of our strategy and the legacy, and so if it's going to be a key component, you need a great leader. And so we have brought on Tom Fisher. Actually has been, I think David and I got involved with Expos in about 2012, 2014, and Tom has been here with us this whole time and is a huge advocate. He is at the University of Minnesota, and so he will, he's our strategy lead at the university, and so while David gave a little bit about the University of Minnesota and their importance, I think this slide gives you a really good idea of the expansiveness. It's a research institution, they're a land-grant institution, one of the top 10 in the country. And you can see that they have a college of design, they've got a farming and agriculture, the Arboretum is owned by them. They work very closely with the Department of Education and actually have kindergarten through 6th grade curriculum for horticulture for the classroom already. And so we'll integrate that. And then there's an extended Minnesota State Universities system that we can tap into. So we're glad to have Tom on the team. Of course, we see the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a convening touch point for our ongoing programming development and for convening partners focused on ESG investing and other social impact initiatives. And then everybody's wondering where Ryan is. Well, here he is. And
Hey everyone, Ryan McEnany, Board Chair of Expo 2031. I'm so sorry that I am not with you this week. I'm in the States at an executive leadership conference for horticulture. But today, saying hello from the Minnesota State Fair, a 12-day event that hosts over 2 million people. Right now, I'm in the horticulture building, which is one of the central hubs of this event. And the theme behind me in all the gardens is Gardens of the World. Thank you so much to the Secretariat for the visit last month, and I hope to host more of you in Minnesota in the coming years as we work to bring the A1 World Horticultural Exhibition to Minnesota in 2031. See you soon.
So that was a little bit of a glimpse of what's happening at our state fair and just convened over the last 10 days. And through we all did it earlier and the impact that has. And of course, we have to have a little bit of a photo show from our Secretariat delegation. No extra was included. There are hundreds of shots, so we know there's lunch coming, so we kept it short for you. And as we've shared, it takes a public-private partnership in America to put this together, and so we have a number of founding partners, and you can see that we convened our government partners as well. And so we appreciate your time today, and thanks for your ongoing support and consideration of Minnesota. Peace.